our 5-week series of Women's Wellness That Works experts. And I'm so excited to have back with us Stephanie Courtillier, who is our positive mindfulness expert and the founder of Integrous Women. Thank you, Stephanie, for being here. One of the reasons why I chose Stephanie to be our positive mindfulness expert is I remember the first time I met Stephanie, and it was at Integrous Women, and she just exuded and radiated positivity and her presence, her vibe, and how she just brought all these women together with her voice and her strength and her power and her gentleness. So I was just really, really amazed. I was inspired by her, and I said, I have to connect with her. And we've known each other for a couple of years now, so it's been amazing. So thank you for being here. Thank you, and welcome back.
And it is always a blessing. And I always love thinking back to that moment where we met for the first time and connected afterwards. It was definitely a connection of the souls, I'll say. I saw something in you, you saw something in me, and it was sparks flew, if you will.
Yes. And you might recognize Stephanie also, obviously, from our Women's Wellness That Works YouTube channel. I interviewed her and her amazing story of being a first-time mom and an entrepreneur. And so you want to go back and definitely listen to her story. And on our podcast, Essential Conversations with Essential Ann, you can also listen to Stephanie's amazing story, her story. So I'm excited. So let's talk about positive mindfulness. How did you get started in being a positive mindfulness mentor, and when did you start practicing positive mindfulness?
I was blessed to have a mother who is a spiritual life coach. That's how she calls it. Yes. And I grew up in a very stable home. I mean, I'm Middle Eastern and European, so there's a lot of energy and passion in both of these cultures. But the grounding that she was always presencing through her being versus her doing was didn't need words, right? There's a lot of leaders who proclaim things and then they don't have the integrity to back it up. The actions aren't there. I was raised with a mother who her actions spoke volumes. And so to me, positive mindfulness is how I was raised through her being. And I'm now in my 30s, and I'll say for anyone who's got daughters, I didn't quite value that until my mid-20s, and definitely now embodying and embracing that in my early 30s. So
I love your mom. I love Pascal. She is truly, truly a spiritual, wonderful woman and mother.
Yes. So, I've done more typical practices. You can call it mindfulness. I've always invested in my own development. So I'm in a multitude of different courses. I was just on a call the other day, and they're like, what do you do? Or tell me about you. And I'm like, I kind of consider myself like a master puzzle maker in a way. So I'm always looking for the different puzzle pieces to create this beautiful canvas that's my life. And really also with the frame of mind, how do I serve? What new knowledge or skill, or really now the reminder of who do I get to be to best serve others? And so I'm always on the lookout for any practices, real practical practices that I get to live, that I get to speak, and that I get to model with others.
Yes, I think that's truly the essence of being positive and being who we are and who we get to be. That's really the key. I know you have a quote with Maya Angelou that you love. Can you share that quote with us?
Ooh, you're putting me on the spot here, Anne. I don't remember the exact one.
Well, let me share it with you, because I know you shared it with me in one of your
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I got it. Just came back to me. Sometimes we have to sit with a question and just allow it to surface. I think it's the one where she's essentially sharing that, people will forget what we've said, but they'll never forget what we've done or how we made them feel.
Yes. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, exactly. And that's why when I met you the first first moment. And by the way, I did not want to attend the Integris meeting because I just thought it was another network marketing meeting. I was kind of like, oh, here we go again. Just moving. But it was definitely what differentiated you from everybody I've seen in, you know, women's groups and so forth, is that your way of being was genuine and authentic. And you were as transparent can be. So I love that about you, and how you made each woman feel in the room as they were special, and they are special, but you made each of us feel that way. So that was special. So let me ask you a question. So you work with many women and hundreds of women, with Integris Women, and you coach many people. And so what do you think are 3 to 5 steps or ways that women can practice positive mindfulness?
To keep it simple, I've recently been practicing and implementing. His name is Dr. Danny Friedland. He's a neuroscientist who unfortunately passed away from a brain tumor. It's the irony of that story, but through the deepest challenges of, you know, the process of losing his life, he radiated love and joy, and he was always teaching and always being the shinest, brightest light that he could possibly be. And so I was very drawn and attracted. I had the pleasure of meeting him in another community I'm in, but he taught me and many others this concept of pause, notice, choose. And I've been in many programs that teach some framework of that. It's like a simple 3 steps. Another one I just did that I thought was fun was CPR, catch, pause, and repair. That was another fun one that I learned. It's easier to remember. But the steps are the same, where it's in anything in life. That's what I like, is how simple it is to remember, but really the practical practices, right? So how do I apply this? It's, for me, pause might mean a micro pause. So just like you asked me a question, I didn't have the answer. So, you know, in that moment I was like, but, you know, it's sitting with, learning to literally pause in the moment of the unknown, or in the moment of a trigger. Something's catching me off guard. I can't control this. I'm feeling overwhelmed. Learning to, in the moment, pause. A pause might also look like taking a day apart. It might be physically removing yourself from a situation. So pause is that first step, and practicing with the pause. The second one is to notice. And now notice might be, you teach breath work, but coming present to the moment. So notice there's different practices. I'm in another group called Unified Mindfulness. They teach labeling. So, and these are things that mental health professionals teach for individuals who have trauma and you're in that kind of overwhelm, but learning to notice what's happening in this moment, internally, in my body, in my mind, and then externally, what's in my environment. I'm noticing the sun. I'm noticing the tissues moving in the wind. I'm noticing my pen. And you start to label and just ground back to the present. It helps to simmer that overactive mind that us ambitious women always have turned on. I know.
Exactly.
To notice. And then the third one is to choose. Now, I like to joke, in my case, it's choose again more often than not, in the sense that the choice I might have made in the moment was still not the best representation of who I was aspiring to be in my best self. But choose really is, when that trigger came, when I'm practicing, you know, the trigger could be anything. It would be as slight as someone made a weird look at you and now you're having all these emotions, to you're in a heated argument, right?
Right.
Such a range. But the choose in that moment is, and for me, I always have certain questions in my pocket. One of the ones that I always fall back to in that moment of choice, now that I've paused enough to be mindful of what's happening internally, externally through the notice, the choose is, what would love do in this moment? What would love do? So it's a lot, you know, it's getting silent enough for, in my case, that little voice to come back on, and for me to listen and to react and to choose the action, choose the do, or choose the way of being in that moment. That's love. So
I think the 3 steps are absolutely perfect, because some people may be reactive, emotionally reactive, where they just don't pause and notice, and then they just react. But choosing, right, the last step, I think is so powerful in that we get to choose how we react,
Yes.
whether it be positive, negative, or hopefully positive, but it really, the pausing part and noticing part is intricate to the choosing part. So those are beautiful steps. I think everyone can take and practice because, you know, women are busy. We're multitaskers, moms.
Yeah.
You know, so what have you noticed about busy women and their mindset? I mean, I know you mentioned a lot previously about just being busy, and how busy are we, and really taking that time to pause. And, you know, how's the mindset of busy women in the world?
So I still am very much in that trap of proclaiming to be busy. I just was doing it earlier, like I'm back to back, right? Which is true. It's a fact. I jump from one meeting to the next. And I think the question we need to be asking is, what are we making busy mean to ourselves? Why are we attached to this idea and concept of busy? And what is it we're really seeking or looking for? Like, is busy serving you? Is it really serving you? Or what I found is when I kind of ask myself the questions and I practice the pause, notice, and choose, and I go a little bit deeper, busy is just an excuse. And it's just something I'm putting in front of myself to hide behind. Oh, I'm too busy to go write my book. I'm too busy to go put that workshop on that I've been dreaming about for years. I'm too busy to go spend time with my family because I should be prioritizing my income right now. Like, these are real things that as women, it's the constant narrative that's happening in our minds. And so I would just kind of put that question back in front of each of the women who are right now. Yes, factually, we're busy. And, you know, any mentor or person you talk to, they always invite, what does it look like if I choose to believe I have an abundance of time versus a scarcity of time? Which really is, when I'm thinking I'm busy, I'm coming from a space of I don't have enough time.
Right, exactly.
And so if I choose to believe that my time is abundant, what might that open up for me? What might that now make possible? I'll give you a perfect example. Being someone who's back to back in meetings all the time, I do work from home. I do have a toddler who a couple of days of the week is home. My beautiful mother takes care of him. But if I chose to believe that I have an abundance of time, what might that mean for that? You know, I might choose to take 5-10 minutes instead of telling myself, oh, but I have to prep for my next meeting, or I need to go do all of these other things. I might actually in that 5-10 minutes just sit down and play with him.
Right.
Be present. Right. And not in the moment of playing with him going, oh, what are all the other 20 things I would be doing, but really being present with my child. And the difference in the long-term impact of that for him and for me, you know, I would argue is 10x impactful versus taking that 5 minutes because I believed I don't have enough time. And then instead prepping for a meeting that, you know, how important really is that meeting 20 years from now? I don't know.
Exactly. I think what you said is, how does our busyness serve us? Because we are busy, but what are those things that we're doing that is so busy that you, like you said, we're making excuses? I know one of the women, one of my clients, was extremely tired, extremely busy. And so I asked her, so what are you doing? What does your day look like? She goes, well, I'm volunteering here and volunteering there and volunteering for school. Well, why are you volunteering if you're, you know, you don't have enough time? So the point is, what are we escaping or avoiding? The things that we're trying not to connect with, like maybe our family, maybe our spouse. So being busy, as you said, is an excuse, but what are we even avoiding to, or making those excuses for? So that's another question. Why are we making excuses to be busy? And then trying to find out, are we just afraid to be alone? Maybe we don't want to be by ourselves, or maybe we need to be surrounded by other people. Is that something, you know, as busy women, we just are addicted to being busy. You know, you just have to be busy. And that's the thing, the stillness, the pausing, the noticing, and then choosing to be still and be alone in your thoughts, right? I mean, is that something that you notice? I mean, I know you do make those choices, because I know you. But for busy women, it's, you know, how do you stop that constant, I have to be busy, or I have to be doing something, or I know I have to do something today, or, you know, the next hour or so.
It's like, it's small practices, right? This is why I really I fall back to, there's a great book called Tiny Habits that talks about that, where it's just essentially, instead of making these huge shifts, because that can feel overwhelming. And then you know, as we're talking about busyness, what I don't want to happen is that we start creating shame or judgment, because that's not going to serve you at the end. So all it is another invitation for awareness. What am I making busy mean for me? Am I hiding behind my busy schedule to any capacity? And, you know, what might that look like if I'm choosing abundance and time? The piece though around making this practical for yourself it's just these small little habit changes. A perfect example: start your meeting, or before you jump into your meeting, create a minute of breath, create a minute of just silence. So I'm not telling you go time block 30 minutes and meditate, because that might not be realistic for you, but before you say yes to the next thing, or you jump into the next meeting, and if you're leading the meetings, I might even challenge you. Something I've been starting to do is opening every single meeting with a 2 minute to 5 minute intention setting, breath, pause. Even I've started meetings, to be honest, where I'm like, hey, would it serve the group right now if I just give you 5 minutes back to yourself? Go to the bathroom, do something for you, go sit in nature, look at the sun, don't not with your eyes open, but receive the sun's rays, right? So, and the transformation in a small amount of time doing these simple practices is huge. Now we start the meeting from a space of calm versus I'm taking all the stress and pressure from my last meeting and I'm dumping it on you, Anne, because you poor thing, I've just been crazy today, right? And instead it's like, let's together, HeartMath talks about co-regulation, and that's possible where by just slowing ourselves down, we're able to regulate one another. And then we're able to have such a more productive and meaningful meeting by just taking these small, short pauses.
I agree. And we did that prior we did that prior to our call, is getting ourselves grounded, being present, being connected to ourselves, our thoughts, our minds, and so forth. And it's our way of being. And so that's why I resonate with you so much, because you do believe and practice that in your daily life. So that's another question. How do you take all this positivity and mindfulness in your daily life? What do you do on your, like, what does a day look like for you and in your life of positive mindfulness?
So I'll presence with, I have a almost 20-month-old. So my day is always perfect example. I had a training from 7 to 9 this morning. He normally wakes up at 6:45. I'm like, I've got time. I woke up at, planning to wake up at 6, thinking I'd have an abundance of time. Of course, my little son wakes up at 5:30, right? And so it's like, okay. Really, and it's such a graceful lesson every time to choose to be present. And this is why the focus on who am I being versus my attachment to the doing, it creates such a different way of living overall. So a day, a typical day as far as how I'm implementing my positive mindfulness practices might look like, in a perfect setting. I've got literally, the first thing I do is, instead of grabbing my phone, which, most of us are doing, and we've heard this, once again, I knew this, but I didn't see the difference until I started bringing it from my head to my heart and applying it. So instead of jumping from my phone, I actually have these guys right here, just Bluetooth earbuds that I put down, and I have a meditation the night before that I preset. So the first thing I do now is I pop in my Bluetooth earbuds, because my husband's still sleeping, and I play a 5 to 10 minute meditation, so that it's allowing me to wake up and set intentions, or calmly get my nervous system, my regulation, like to open my day, versus and I've told myself, I'm just going to go check this one thing when I wake up. And then of course you've got, the emails, the texts, and then you start, it's like I'm taking everyone's stresses and put it on me in the first 2 minutes of waking up.
Exactly.
And drinking water, that was the thing I was never doing. So chugging a glass of water, I've always got, a water bottle next to me, and just taking a couple sips of water so that that's nourishing my body. But throughout the day, I think the most impactful ones I used to be like, I've got to do my 10 to 20 minute meditation, and then I'm set for the day. That's not true, actually. I'm in a great program called Positive Intelligence, PQ. They call it PQ reps. But in essence, what I like is they have this little charger. So during the day, my intention is to be at like 50% at minimum of a charge of mindfulness. So I would in my old mindset think that because I did my 15 meditation, I'm done for the day, I'm set. Well, in reality, let's say by 12 o'clock, my charge is now 0.
Right.
So as I have that really intense meeting coming up, or I'm going to be facilitating this afternoon, it helped me get into the habit of, well, actually, I need to get in I'm choosing to get in another 5-minute meditation, or even once again, those 1 minute between meetings. I'm a different person when I allow myself the space to have those quick minutes to myself, to just ground. And you don't even have to do anything. That's the thing. Don't get stuck on which meditation. Take a minute and just literally step back and look around your room. I've got a gorgeous view outside. I've got palm trees. So I just sit down and sometimes I just look at the sky and the clouds and how beautiful it is, and just take that in. And then choosing a big one for me has been, because of this transition from do to be, is tuning into my body and my emotions. So if I'm choosing how am I going to show up as love today? How am I going to show up as peace, as calm, as flow? It's for me to tap into an emotion. Mm-hmm. So it's not just about using my brain, which I think is on all day long, but allowing myself to slow down enough to feel love, feel gratitude, feel curiosity, feel compassion. And I'm realizing the more I practice this, the quicker it is for me to get into that state of love. Whereas before it might be like, okay, feel love, feel love. What does love even feel like? What is it? And I'm in my head, but it's the slowing down. And now, in about 30 seconds, I can just put my hand on my heart, take a couple breaths, and tune into love. And then it doesn't even matter what comes out of my mouth. I just heard that statistic. It's like something like 70% of it's body language. That's what people are looking at. And so getting out of our heads when we're leading and really tuning into, who do I want to be on stage? What do I want to be in front of these women, in front of this group? And focusing more on that. And trust me, your body language, your energy that you're giving off, does 70% of the work. And then the rest, we're pretty innate and good at talking through.
That's what I love about you, is you really take on, like, I know right now you're on this wonderful, amazing spiritual journey. And I remember the first time I met you, I mean, you were go, 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 go. It was just constant go, 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 go. I'm thinking, is this woman breathing?
As the breathing expert, I was definitely not breathing.
Yeah, I remember that the first time. And then you had asked me, okay, can you do a breathing meditation before we start the meeting? And I was like, oh, great. I'm so excited we get to breathe before the meeting. And so I'm so happy that you incorporate that in every meeting you have, and every Zoom call, and every, everything that you do now. So you are definitely practicing positive mindfulness in your everyday life, and your business and your family life. And I know that because I know you and your mom and your family, and how wonderful it is. The thing is that you offer so much. I mean, you're not just a positive mindfulness expert in so many ways, but you do offer other programs, with Integrous Women and so forth. So can you share some of the things that you offer with Integrous Women and some of the programs that you're doing?
So I'm having a lot of fun right now. And I say this through the lens of, I used to, you mentioned when we first met, I still am very go, go, go type A, but I'm practicing it through a new lens, right? Where it's, how do I still allow things to be go, 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 still have a full schedule. And instead of being attached to the doing, I'm attached to my being. I'm really surrendering, I should say, into my being. So I'm having fun in the sense that I've actually let go of a lot of the very structured programming that we were hosting for Integrous Women. I had an annual and a monthly membership. We were doing 2 to 3 events a month consistently. Had a very loyal, beautiful community. And after having my son in January of 2021, I definitely took a step back, and you mentioned like the spiritual work. So it kind of felt like a winter season of my life where I was very just, how do I live this work? How do I practice it? And now I'm feeling I'm actually, ironically, with summer ending, feel like I'm stepping in towards the winter time. I'm going to be stepping into my summer, where I'm now starting to come back out and put programming on. But it's done in a way where the fun of it is, what we stand for at Integrous Woman, my role really is I help facilitate conversations and experiences that remind people how to be. I think that's what I feel like I'm intentionally showing up and helping that by modeling it, but then also by being a guide and helping to curate that through connection, through intimacy, through safety in the space. So some of the programs, quote unquote, the fun of it is I've done a couple different things. So I do, right, for example, we are running a program called Awakening Conscious Leadership, where I'm bringing in, like the Puzzle Master, multiple sources. So there's mindfulness, there's neuroscience, so there's cognitive and there's more heart-centered work, but it's experiential, so it's hands-on. And that I'm doing through 3-hour workshops all the way to 3-month-long programming, where you're part of a small group and there's consistency in that. Other programs I've brought forth, partnered with a beautiful woman, Nalima Bhatt. She has a book called Shakti Leadership. Really, how do we integrate feminine into our masculine way of being? So same thing. How do I be more nurturing, more open, more sensitive? And I'm such a sensitive person that I've always put this wall up because I always thought it was shameful to cry, or I felt like, really afraid to cry in front of people. And now it's, how do we learn to, not that, there's crying involved, but, space of Shakti leadership is learning, how do I bring the best of my masculine and feminine energies into my leadership? And so that's another program that I've put on through Integrous Woman. We've got quite a diverse array of offerings. It's just about tuning in. You can go to our website, integrouswoman.com. Of course, if you connect with Anne, we're planning to do some fun things, let's say in collaboration with Women's Wellness That Works. And then, of course, I do different consulting. My niche is online peer-to-peer learning communities. I love a very process-driven person, very analytical. So I like strategy, processes.
Right.
But my passion is sustainability. How do we help people not just learn and make it fun and interesting? That was a really good event. But how do I take that learning and live this work? And that's what we get with Integrous Woman. It's not just a nice to have, it's a transformational, life-altering way of being, because that's what the world needs, is all of us to step into that.
And I also believe that, I know when I had joined Integrous Women a couple of years ago, that you also said that it's important to leave a legacy. Leaving a legacy, and how we're living our lives so that we're able to serve others, which I know you are definitely one of those people, as I am too. And then leaving that legacy, what's that legacy you want to leave behind, which is so powerful for Integrous Women as well. You are truly deaf positive, but an inspiration to me, because I think when I had met you, I was also in a place where I was just doing a lot of learning. I was in the stage of just learning, absorbing information and more information. In fact, when I first joined Integrous Women, I was actually becoming a certified breathing functional specialist at that time. And then things went on after that. But you have inspired me to really connect with women on a much deeper basis, and really focus on celebrating each other as women. So obviously with Women's Wellness That Works, it's connection, community, and celebration, which you are part of that community, and you've inspired me to be who I am and who I get to be. So I appreciate you so much. You become a very good friend as well. So I love that you are continuing, stepping back, pausing, taking time for yourself, which I'm so proud of. That you're doing that for yourself and for your family, because really, I think things changed for you after you became a new mom.
Oh yeah, everything changed.
New perspective, obviously.
Oh yes,
I had a first-time mom.
It was so funny. So before I had Teo, I remember I was like 7 months or 8 months pregnant. I'm like a month out from taking I was already planning on a 1-month hiatus from Integrous Woman, and at the time we had a board of women who were supporting me, and all the board of women are moms, okay? And I was sitting around the table with them. I'm like, so I'm gonna give birth in January, and then in February I'll be back, and everyone's like silent, and they're just rolling their eyes. And I kind of stop. I'm like, what, you don't believe in me? You don't think I can, I got all masculine on them. And I'm just like,
Right.
there's no one thinking. And they're just kind of like, okay, Stephanie, if you want to show back up in February with your first child, go for it. Of course, in retrospect, I came back 3 months later and I laughed and I brought that up. I'm like, thank you for reminding me.
Exactly. You don't know until you know, until you've gone through it yourself. But you are definitely a driven woman, which I love, but also practicing the steps of positive mindfulness in your daily life allows you to become more abundant, allows you to become the leader that you want to be for other women. And that's what's wonderful about being a positive and mindfulness person and expert and mentor as you are. So ladies, if you have any questions for Stephanie, because this is going to be on our Facebook group, it's going to be on YouTube as well as on our podcast, please type in any questions you have for Stephanie below and contact her for positive mindfulness and some other coaching that she has with Integrous Women. It's really an amazing community of women. They're all professionals. They're spiritual as well. There's just an array of different women that's just beautiful. So thank you for bringing that to our community. And I want you to know that if you haven't joined our newsletter, Stephanie is on our newsletter as well as other experts there. Please join our newsletter by going to essentialann.com and signing up for a newsletter. And remember to pause and breathe. And that's definitely something that we all get to do as women more of.
Yes.
That's right. So thank you very much, Stephanie, for being here. Thank you, lovelies. We will see you again on the next week for our next expert. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks.
Bye.